today we're exploring Madeira wines from the Enchanted Isles. I'm Jason.
And I'm Trent, and we're here on an unfiltered, unapologetically unprofessional wine journey. And we're saying here, Jace.
Our saying here is drink more, try more, learn more. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Trent, what have you been thinking about this week?
We are going to be talking about Madeira.
Yeah.
And when I think about Madeira, I think about cooking as well.
Yes.
So the question that I put forward to myself was, does the wine you use to cook really make a difference?
Yeah, very good question.
You wouldn't know much because you don't do much cooking.
I don't do much cooking, but I do a lot of eating, so it's important to me.
Yeah. Okay. So often when you look at a recipe, you'll look at recipes like beef burgundy or mussels with white wine sauce, even like a beef pie with red wine basing, or like a bolognese, right?
Yeah.
Everything has elements of kind of wine in it.
Yeah.
So I thought, does it make a difference, like whether you use a cheap bottle, an expensive bottle, or like a bottle that I left there for 5 days?
Yeah.
Does it actually make a difference? So I did some research through, I guess, a few websites. One was Serious Eats, and it says, don't splurge on wine for cooking. It all gets lost through the process. Right? Pretty thing to look out for is acidity. You know, the more tart the wine, the more acidic the wine, the more acidic and tart the food that you cook. Yeah. Bon Appetit said, pick one that you'll want to drink a glass of.
Right, yeah.
If I have expensive taste, it's going to be very expensive for me to do cooking. So I didn't necessarily agree with that one.
No.
But the one that I did, I guess, lean into a bit more is around Jancis Robinson.
Yep. Good old Jancis, yes.
Jancis. We love Jancis, right? Yep. We'll have her on a podcast soon.
One day.
And she took a very scientific and experimental view on how the wine and the food kind of comes together. She cooked the same recipe, mushroom and onions dish, across 15 different wines. Okay? Ranging from cheap to expensive, from fruity to oaky, from low to high acid, and from dry to sweet. I'm going to cut to the chase.
Yep.
The thing that makes a difference is acidity and sweetness had the most impact on the finished dish. And then third was fruitiness as opposed to sweetness. What sweet wines provide, with also high acid sweet wines like a Riesling, or fortified wines such as Madeira. So the results were that acidity and sweetness had the most impact on the finished dish, and proved to have the most profound and positive influence onto it. The third thing that had the impact was fruitiness as opposed to sweetness.
Yep.
So sweet wines with high acid, such as a medium dry Riesling, fortified wines like a Madeira, sherry, masala, or port that were often used for cooking, said was by far the best wine to cook with.
Wow. I've never cooked with any of those. So, okay.
I do see like a dash of sherry.
Yep.
That was in cooking. For dry wines, red or white, it says that, they didn't seem to add much depth of flavor, no matter how simple or complex the wines were.
Right.
And for the expensive wines, it made no material impact.
Yeah.
And they had no more depth than the cheap wines.
Yep.
So again, the money doesn't matter. The tannins left wines with a bit of bitterness. The fruit does matter. Wines with really that kind of juiciness to it also comes through in the dish.
Yep.
They're a bit more on the savory spectrum. So the key takeaways that I took from this was that the cost of the wine does not matter.
So happy with that statement. Yep.
And what matters is acidity, then sweetness, then fruitiness. So I mentioned before, Madeira is a great wine, so we can use that for cooking, and it probably ties into your thoughts of the week and also the episode today. So what have you been thinking?
Firstly, I got to say thank you for saying that, because there's been so much that I've seen about this topic around whether or not you should cook with expensive and great wines.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy you've confirmed it doesn't really make a difference, because my wallet agrees.
Yes.
But it does tie into the topic of Madeira, and really I wanted to share my thoughts on Madeira, because to be honest, I don't know much about it. Did you know much about Madeira?
I know about Madeira cake,
yeah,
but probably more the bastardized version that you see as Sara Lee Madeira cake, not the original one.
Even that I haven't had. So I'm aware of the term and I'm aware of what it is, but I really didn't know much. And so it's actually a really exciting wine. And in the intro, I talked about the fact that it's from the Enchanted Islands. And so I want to talk about things that are a bit mystical, interesting about Madeira wine. I've got 7 interesting facts about Madeira wine.
Fun facts?
Fun facts. So the first thing, it's part of the Enchanted Isles. So the ancients called the archipelago. I've never used that word, so happy I've been able to use
Isn't
it.
Philippines archipelago?
I've never used it still, but the archipelago. Now I can't pronounce it. Look what you did to me. It's part of the Enchanted Isles, which was formed from volcanoes.
Yeah.
With Madeira is the largest one, and the reason that they said it's enchanted is because these are really steep pieces of land, and they're also quite green. So the steepest in Madeira is 1,800 meters.
Pretty high.
That's right. So already through that term that the ancients are using, Enchanted Isles, you think that this place is special.
It is.
The second thing is the location. Location is the key. So it's actually part of Portugal, but it's not part of the main part of Portugal. It's an island off Portugal, actually closer to Morocco, which is in Africa.
Wow.
So 650 kilometers offshore from Morocco. And I like to think of it as the equivalent of Singapore or Hong Kong. The reason I'm saying that is because back in the olden days, where you didn't have many airplanes, you were going via boat. It was kind of the stop-off point. So you'd go travel across the equator, you'd stop off at Madeira, grab some wine, and then you travel on west over to Americas. Right?
Yeah.
So it was a kind of a stopover place.
Yeah.
Third thing is that the way that they make the wine is actually quite opposite to how traditional winemakers make wine. So winemakers are very fearful of oxygen and they're very fearful of temperature. They try to minimize both of those. But Madeira, they love that. It's actually what makes the wine special. So as the ships are traveling across the equator, they had barrels of the Madeira wine to kind of hold the ship down and bring it across.
Like ballast?
Like ballast.
Yeah.
And as they were warming themselves up in the sun and the boat would heat up, it'd warm up the wine itself. And that made it quite special and added to the fact that temperature was helping.
Did they do that purposely or was it by surprise?
That was by surprise, and we could get to that actually leads on to the different ways of heating. There's 2 ways of heating it, but it was through the travel. They'd gone across the equator and back, and they've gone, hold on, this wine actually tastes better now that it's come back and actually it's gone through this heat.
Yeah.
So they've realized that heating it and having that length of oxygen on it is actually a good thing. So they devised, which is point 4, 2 ways of heating up the wine. There's 2 ways. Estufa is the first one, which is a stainless steel vat encased in a jacket of hot water.
Yeah.
And they try to warm up the wine to 40 to 50 degrees for 3 months.
Yeah.
Or the other way, which is considered the more premium way, is called cantero, which is they put aged barrels in heated rooms or in the sun.
Yeah.
And so it's more let the natural sun kind of replicates what it would have been like on a boat.
Yeah.
Kind of heat that up in that method.
It's a bit like when we sell in Rockford, where they kind of left those barrels on top inside the cellar. Kind of a bit of heat. Not so hot, but it's that same kind of idea in terms of just letting it there and get that heat and oxygen into it.
Yeah, and Rockford, that's part of their tradition to keep it going. So it might be quite similar. Number 5, it's like port, but it's different. So it's like port in that it's a fortified wine. And so to keep it longer, they add another alcohol, typically brandy, so that it can last that long trip. But it's different in the fact that they're heating it up. So port, they don't heat it up. 6, I don't know this. It can be sweet or dry. Have you ever had a dry Madeira?
I haven't.
Yeah, it was quite a surprise. So there's 4 major white grapes. There's Cercial, which is the highest in altitude and is the driest.
Yeah.
There's a Verdelho, which is medium dry and smoky. There's the Boal,
which is what we have.
Which is what we have today, which is medium sweet.
Yeah.
And then there's the Malvasia, which is sweet.
Yeah.
So 4 different grades of white grapes, going from dry to sweet. Did not know that.
And are these specific towards the Madeira Islands? Do you know?
My understanding is they're native to the Madeira Islands, but happy to be corrected on that one. Last thing, they're the longest living wine. So because of the way that they heat it up, because that they have additional alcohol added to it, they actually can last up to centuries. 1 century probably is what I'm thinking. But the oldest Madeira is from 1715.
Yeah.
And actually, that's 300 years old. Crap, I just thought about that.
Oh, how's your maths?
Yeah,
All right.
it's going well. So really interesting facts, like 7 points about Madeira here.
And even when I was looking for a Madeira wine, I think I sent through you a link, and there's like, you still can get some of these Madeira wines from like, I think early 1900s or I think it's even late 1800s.
Yes.
They might have been like $2,000, but they're still accessible.
Yeah.
You know, which is pretty cool. There's a bit of piece of history for something special.
Absolutely. If I was tasting something from 1715, like what was happening at that time? There was definitely no Netflix.
I don't know.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there wasn't. But you're right. They do say that Madeira wines are actually one of the best wines to invest in because they last so long.
We should buy some more.
We should buy some more. That's what let's do the tasting and see if that's the case. But that's what I've been thinking about. 7 fun facts about Madeira from the Enchanted Isles. And so, like we were saying at the start, we're going to try 2 different grape varieties. And it's interesting how we got to try this because the first Madeira wine that I actually tried was in a jail. And it was in a jail that you'd organised for us to visit, which is good.
That was after we stole that car and then got locked up. Yeah,
I don't remember that part, but
and then you dropped the soap on the ground.
Yeah, I've definitely blanked that part. You'd organised a bucks party for a good mate of ours, and we went to a jail. It was a jail that Ned Kelly and who else had gone there? Chopper Read has visited, and they'd actually refurbished this jail, and it was in Victoria. What was the name of the jail again?
Pentridge Prison.
And we went to a wine bar called Olivine.
Yeah.
And that's where we got to try a Madeira wine, and it's one of the wines that we got to try. But we've got two that we're going to try here. And we might jump into it. Was there anything you were going to add to that before?
I just said, I guess the only other thought was when I was looking up about Madeira wines as well, just maybe want to travel to Madeira. It felt like this kind of magical enchanted island that was kind of like middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
For me, it felt like kind of going back in time to this kind of special paradise.
Yeah.
So it made me really want to kind of go there and visit.
The photos of the place look amazing.
Special.
So it's on the list. All right, so let's try the first one here. So it's Henrique and Henrique Boal.
Or Henriques and Henriques.
Or Henriques. When
you say Henrique, it sounds like you're saying Henrique Iglesias.
And it's Boal 10-year-old, $70. So it's got a bit of price from the Wine Collective.
Yeah, Boal lasts 1,000 years, right?
But it'll last a very long time. And we've got another, I might show both of them actually. We've got another that we're going to compare it against. It's the same wine company, but it's a Malvasia, and it's a 15-year-old Madeira. This one had a bit more price, $90 from the Wine Collective. So if you want to give that a whirl.
When I was also looking up about the different Madeira wines, I love it that some of those really old wines have, they're kind of like the kind of old labels or the printed labels. It's very simple.
Yes.
You know, it says like 1815 on
just
it.
The year,
I wanted
right?
that. I wanted those ones, but
it's
a bit more than $70 or $90.
Yeah. And $70 and $90 actually is quite a fair price already. But it does reflect the history to it. But the 10-year-old, the Boal, what did you think?
Boal. The reason why I picked the Boal for is I was actually going to get some proper Madeira cake. And it said that Boal is the best one, the medium sweet, to kind of pair with it. Didn't get a chance to do it. But I really like this Boal. Boal? All
of those.
All of those. Again, crisp pudding, dried raisins. But it's very clean and bright as well.
Yep.
So I think it's that nice balance. Like, because it has acidity and the brightness in it, doesn't make the alcohol kind of stand out as much. It kind of has a really nice balance, and that kind of butterscotchy crisp pudding has that kind of length to it as well. It kind of pushes through.
Do you think it's similar to a port, or do you think there's a difference?
For this one?
Yep.
I think it's similar.
Right.
So for the other one?
Yep.
Different.
I remember when tasting, and it was the Malvasia, the 15-year-old. The characteristic that really stood out was this nuttiness about it, and I found that different to the ports that we've had. That's interesting what you said. So let me read a bit of a description here and see if any of it resonates with you. So Wine Decoded said, for the Boal, the nose blossoms in the glass with notes of opulent dried fruit, toffee, brown sugar notes, along with hints of char and mineral rancio character.
Rancio?
I don't know what rancio is. Do you know what rancio is?
I know what rancid means.
Yeah, maybe it was typo on my iPad. But let's see. The palate is smooth in texture with a nice zingy hint of acidity. Flavors of candied citrus, caramel, sweet spice balanced with intriguing savory character, culminating in a smoky finish.
Yes, and yes.
Yeah.
It makes me always want to kick back on a cold winter's night with a fire going.
Yep.
And just drinking this. That's what I feel like.
Yeah. It's definitely a winter kind of
drink,
right?
I know.
But I think the thing that stood out for me was the term char in having this. And that really stands out. And it's char in a good way. It's not like you're tasting something that's been burnt the crap out of it. No. But it's got that smokiness.
It's that kind of smoky, kind of burnt, kind of nice little bits off the edge of the meat. The kind of like...
mixed with like toffee nuts or something like that that's been heated up.
Exactly.
It's got a nice darkness to it. That is really nice.
I love that.
Do you want to do corkscrew ratings on that?
Oh, corkscrew ratings. Rating as a fortified wine. 8 out of 10.
Agreed.
8,
Agreed.
Pushing 9, but 8 out of 10.
There was a really long thinking process there, but I agree.
I'll give a proper judgment, that's fine.
Yeah, you're thinking about it very well. I agree. And I love that smoky characteristic to it. Let's move on to the 15-year-old. And when I was looking at the two, have a taste, when I was looking at the two, I actually thought the 15-year-old is darker, which I was surprised with because I thought over time the tannins and the color actually get softer.
Yep.
But the 15 looks darker. So,
but remember, again, with white wines,
Madeira Malvasia 15,
it gets darker. With red wines, it gets lighter. You're saying these are white grapes, yeah?
These are white grapes.
Yeah, so it does get darker.
Yeah.
But the thing that I noticed, or the difference between the 10 and the 15, was that the 15 feels like it's deeper, denser, a bit more kind of, I don't know. I'm going to use like a red wine term, like a bit more kind of earthy and gruntier.
Yep.
Kind of coming through. Maybe a bit more of that char.
Yep.
But then I kind of pick up a bit more, I don't know, I noticed that it's a bit bigger on the alcohol as well. Almost like a kind of PVC type of smell that kind of comes through.
PVC? What's a
PVC? You know those PVC costumes that sometimes you wear, that plastic?
Whoa. Is this cosplay that we're diving into? What kind of costumes are you wearing here? Okay, but I hear what you're saying, like some plastic kind of gluey kind of taste or smell to it. Yeah, I agree.
Plasticky, yeah.
Tasting the two against each other, that smokiness goes away between the 10 to the 15. It's a lot softer, but the alcohol hit, exactly what you're saying, is so strong.
Which is that kind of bitterness as well. So I know the alcohol is that kind of the bitterness kind of comes through.
Yeah.
But it's almost like a whack in your face.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I actually prefer the 10 over the 15.
Correct.
And I know it's a different grape variety. I'd love to compare the two.
And $170 versus $90 as well.
Which is always better in the pot. So let me read some descriptions here from the Malvasia 15. So bright, amber-colored gold, light gold nuances. The wine offers us a complex aroma of dried fruit, jam, and some wood. Full-bodied, rich and smooth with a taste of nuts and honey. Very pleasant aftertastes.
I wouldn't say pleasant aftertaste. I got the wood, but the wood was hitting me in the face with the alcohol.
Well, it's way too strong. And actually not what I remembered. If you think back to that event in jail where we were dropping soap again.
Soap in a rope?
Yeah. Does it remind you of what you were
then we've had a few drinks before we got to this one. So maybe it would have mellowed out and would have blended in with all the other alcohol we already had.
Yes, completely agree. So if we were to do a corkscrew rating, the 15-year-old Malvasia, what are you thinking?
6 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. 6 out of 10. And you know what? Price also plays a factor in that. $90 for that. It's not cheap. But I would go over for the 10-year-old at any point, which is great.
You always like your younger ones.
In terms of wine, yes, yes. Very true. Very true. And so you always like to throw in a bonus round, and I wanted to throw one in as well. What they do say is that Madeira is good with a lot of different desserts, particularly the sweet ones. And actually the dry ones are great with savory dishes. But we've got some sweet wines here. And so they do say it's good with honeyed, nutty kind of desserts. And straight away I thought of baklava.
Baklava.
And so we've got some baklava here from the local shop. Have a bite, have a taste. Taste the wine with it and see if it works. And I'll show this up to this camera.
What is a baklava?
Because it's like I think it's filo pastry with syrup and pistachio nuts kind of melded together. Is that your understanding?
Extremely sweet and very nutty. Yes, sugar syrup on top. Flaky pastry.
Very sticky. And apparently it's meant to be good with the Madeira. But you're saying no.
Remember what I said about when trying to pair with sweet things, you also need it almost to be sweeter than the food.
Yeah.
The food's sweeter than the wine, which made the wine feel bitter.
I agree. Did you have both?
No, I just had it with a 10-year-old. But I could imagine it being the same as well.
Yeah, that doesn't work. Not at all.
Corkscrew on the wine pairing.
Corkscrew on the wine pairing, that's like a 3 out of 10.
Yeah, agree.
It's not working, but baklava, if you haven't tried that, give that a crack. I'm enjoying that. So there you go. Madeira wine from the Enchanted Isles. Any last thoughts before we wind up?
I am enchanted. And I do want to go there. So I think we have to book that as another destination trip for the wind-up.
Yep. Based on our budget, we'll probably go via boat because damn, it's expensive to get there. But
it's fine. We can go Porto, have some port, go to Madeira.
Yeah, I'm just thinking of a dinghy that we're rolling. But, let's see where we go. To our listeners, if you could just let us know what's your favorite Madeira wine. Also, if you've tried the dry ones, let us know of one that you recommend. Super interested to try that. Hopefully that's given you a taste of what Madeira has to offer. As we like to say here, drink more, try more, learn more. Thanks all. Bye.